Emily had never lived in a house quite like this one before. As she gazed up at the grand old Victorian-style house, she got excited at the thought of exploring it all. Her parents had told her that it was a big, old house, but Emily had no idea just how big it was until they pulled up to the driveway. As they walked through the old front door, Emily's eyes widened in amazement. The foyer was huge, with a grand staircase leading up to the second floor. The walls were lined with pictures and paintings, and the floor was made of polished hardwood that shone in the light. "Wow," Emily breathed, taking it all in. Her parents smiled at her enthusiasm. They showed her around the house, pointing out each room and explaining the rules of the house. Emily listened carefully, but she was more interested in exploring the house herself. Finally, they made their way up to the third floor, where Emily's room was. It was a cozy little room with a big window that looked out onto the street. Emily's parents helped her unpack her things and set up her bed, but Emily was too excited to stay in her room for long. As soon as her parents left her alone, Emily began to explore. She started in her own room, opening all the drawers and cupboards to see what was inside. Then she moved on to the hallway, looking amazed into each room and admiring the old-fashioned furniture and decor. But it was the attic that really caught Emily's attention. She had never been in an attic before, and she was curious to see what was up there. Her parents had warned her not to go up there, but Emily couldn't resist. She slowly made her way up the stairs, each step creaking beneath her feet. As she pushed open the door to the attic, a blast of musty air hit her in the face. The attic was dark and shadowy, with old boxes and furniture scattered around. Emily's heart raced as she took it all in. She couldn't wait to explore more. But then she heard a noise, a rustling sound from the corner of the room. Emily froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She strained her eyes to see what was making the noise, but it was too dark to see. Suddenly, Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. She had the feeling that she wasn't alone up there, that someone or something was watching her. She quickly made her way back down the stairs. Her heart was racing. There was something strange about that attic, something she couldn't quite understand, but she was determined to find out what it was. Emily couldn't stop thinking about the attic. She was certain that something strange was going on up there, and she wanted to find out. The next day, Emily asked her parents if they knew anything about the history of the house. Her parents told her that the house had been built in the late 1800s and had been in the same family for generations. Emily listened closely, hoping to find some clue that would help her understand the strange feeling she had in the attic. Later that day, while her parents were away, Emily decided to investigate the attic further. She made her way up the stairs. As she entered the attic, Emily's eyes scanned the dark room for any sign of movement. She took slow, cautious steps towards the corner of the room where she had heard the noise the day before. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew through the attic, making the old boxes rattle and shake. Emily jumped and spun around, but she saw nothing. She let out a sigh of relief, blaming herself for being so easily scared. But then she noticed something odd. There was a small door in the corner of the room, one she hadn't seen before. Emily approached the door, her curiosity piqued. She turned the handle, and the door creaked open. Inside was a small room, barely big enough for one person. The room was dusty and cluttered, with old books and papers stacked on a small desk. As Emily looked around the room, she noticed something written on the wall in faded red ink. It read, "Beware the ghost in the attic." Emily's heart began to race as she read the words. She had heard stories about ghosts before, but she had never believed them. But now, in this old house, with its creaky floors and mysterious attic, she wasn't so sure. She quickly left the attic, feeling scared. She couldn't get rid of the feeling that someone or something was watching her every move. As she made her way down the stairs, Emily couldn't help but wonder, was there really a ghost in the attic? And if so, what did it want from her? That night, Emily struggled to sleep. She couldn't stop thinking about the strange room in the attic and the words she had seen on the wall. Despite her fear, she couldn't stop thinking that she needed to go back and investigate further. The next morning, Emily decided to go back to the attic once again. She snuck up the stairs, trying to be as quiet as possible and not alert anyone in the house. As Emily entered the attic, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. There was a small box tucked away in the corner of the room. She approached it slowly and opened the box, and inside, she found a diary. Emily's heart raced as she began to read. The diary belonged to a girl named Sarah, who had lived in the house over 100 years ago. Emily couldn't believe her luck. She had stumbled upon a piece of history, and she was about to learn more. As she read through the diary, Emily noticed that Sarah had mentioned strange things in the attic. She realized that the ghost she had read about on the wall might actually be real. Suddenly, Emily heard a creaking sound coming from the other side of the room. She spun around, but there was no one there. As she ran down the stairs, she heard footsteps coming from behind her. She turned around, but no one was there. Emily rushed down the stairs and out of the house, gasping for breath. She didn't go back to the attic after that, but she couldn't stop thinking about it. Emily knew that there was something strange going on in the house, and she had the feeling that she and her parents were in danger. She didn't know what was waiting for her in that attic, but she knew that she needed to be careful. Days went by, and Emily couldn't stop thinking about the diary and the strange things she had experienced in the attic. She couldn't get rid of the feeling that something was following her, watching her every move. One night, Emily decided to do some research on the house's history. She went to the local library and began to look through old newspaper articles and historical records. As she went through the dusty pages, she found something that sent shivers down her spine. In the late 1800s, a young girl named Sarah had died in the house under mysterious circumstances. The cause of death was never determined. Emily realized that the diary she had found belonged to Sarah, and she couldn't help but wonder if the ghostly occurrences she had experienced in the attic were linked to Sarah's tragic death. As she continued to read, Emily found an old photo of Sarah. She was shocked to see that Sarah looked like the ghostly figure she had seen on the wall in the attic. What if it was Sarah's spirit who was still haunting the house after all these years? Emily realized that she needed to face the ghost and help put its spirit to rest. She went back to the house, armed with the knowledge she had gained from her research. As she made her way up to the attic, she heard the same creaking sound she had heard before. But this time, she was ready. She had brought a candle and some salt, hoping to use them to ward off the ghost. As she entered the attic, she saw the ghostly figure of Sarah standing in front of her. Emily held up the candle and began to cast a spell she had found in an old book at the library. She sprinkled salt around the room, creating a protective circle. Slowly, the ghostly figure began to fade away. Emily felt relieved as she realized that she had succeeded in putting Sarah's spirit to rest. She knew that the house would never be the same, but she was happy. She had successfully solved the mystery and brought the haunting to an end.